Please join me in welcoming our newest graduate, John Prendergast, 2017 Manchester University alum, as our commencement speaker.
Thanks, President McFadden. That was a heck of a lot easier than going for 4 years and getting the degree, but I'll take it. Wow, is this really happening? Are you really graduating today? Are you sure that you passed that statistics class? What if all this is a dream? What if you're going to wake up at the end of this speech and you're actually still a freshman living not in a double, but in a specially designed triple in Garver Hall, and you have to run to that statistics exam in 5 minutes because remember, you failed it last semester and you forgot to eat, and you are having an epically bad hair day, I speak from experience, and you have to climb that tree near Garver to get your shoes that you threw into the tree because you thought you were graduating. Go ahead, pinch yourself all you want. It won't work. You got to listen to this whole speech first. Just do not snore. I'm personally curious about what each of you are going to miss most about Manchester. Will you miss mud volleyball? Which, when I learned about what this was, I immediately thought of the amoeba that evolved out of the mud to eventually become human. And now Manchester students are attempting to somehow reverse the entire evolutionary process. It's very frightening. Will you miss air band? Any student who escaped that unique Manchester tradition will be brought up on stage after the ceremony to play air guitar and lip sync to their choice of a Lady Gaga or Justin Bieber song. This will constitute the final indignity of your college experience, thank you. Will you miss the trike race? Anyone with under a 3.7 GPA, I am told, will be eating chocolate pudding out of diapers before the day is over. President McFadden didn't want to break the news to you. Listen, I don't make this stuff up. It's a Manchester thing you wouldn't understand. Will you miss beating Anderson University in the HCAC hoops tournament? I love that you got them this year. Or will you miss the late night coffee runs to Wilbur's? Heck, I still do those runs, but I wonder if I can get some college credit for that too. So you think you're leaving all this behind, do you? Not so fast. As we speak, the Alumni Fundraising Office is preparing your very first donation letter. And they will literally hound you for the rest of your life. And then it's not over. When you die, they will negotiate with your heirs to fund the Dave McFadden Honorary Student Center. So the point here is that Manchester is going to be in your blood forever. The Inn, Pub, and Grill will make sure of that. Earmuffs, parents. From my various stints in African war zones, I have malaria in my blood forever. You have Manchester. And I can honestly say that as a fellow Hoosier and as someone who has the privilege to travel all over the United States to universities and colleges, having this particular university in your bloodstream is a very good thing. Consistent with the vision and the values at the core of Manchester, you graduates have made an obvious commitment to community service and to the dignity of all human beings. Social change is in the water here in this campus. And in case any of you parents didn't know that, the refund window is closing right now. Watch your fingers, Dad. But what I see happening here, what you all did while you were in Manchester, is nothing short of extraordinary. Apparently, students contributed 60,000 hours of community service this year alone. That is utterly incredible. Manchester students participated in events such as community dinners, where you served meals to community members in need, Indiana Reading Corps and Partners in Learning, where you tutored younger kids in elementary and high school, Blessings for a Backpack, where you packed backpacks full of canned goods for those in need, Habitat for Humanity, all of us have heard of, where you help build homes for disadvantaged folks, Death Row Support Project, where you wrote letters to forgotten people on death row, which is a bit near to my heart because my wife, Sue, who's here today, is a lawyer who provides pro bono representation to people on death row in the Deep South, including, some of you know this name, Anthony Ray Hinton, who visited Manchester University in December after being exonerated after being on death row for 30 years in Alabama. The list goes on. Red Cross blood drives, volunteering in support of people with disabilities, visiting folks at retirement homes, helping at the food bank and food drives, cleaning up Eel River, supporting the low-income health clinic. It just doesn't end. What is going on here? It's like one big audition for the greatest United Way commercial ever. To me, it's really impressive, and it's really darn cool that so many of you gave so much to others who just needed a helping hand. Manchester, it seems to me, is a place where women and men are prepared to go forth and live righteous lives and stand up for the rights and dignity of their fellow human beings. Standing up is so key in this life. My best friend Samantha Power calls it being an upstander. You are going to have so many opportunities in the years ahead to be an upstander rather than a bystander, to be someone who takes the road less traveled, that takes the chance, that dives in the deep end, that goes for the cake and the icing, that trusts yourself and believes anything is possible and finally just goes for it. And when you live like this, incredible things can happen. Let me tell you how this has played out in my life. As the vice president said, I couldn't have imagined that when I saw pictures of this famine halfway around the world in Ethiopia, and I was 21 years old, and I scraped all my money together, literally every last penny, and bought a one-way ticket to Africa. I couldn't have imagined that 15 years later, I would be flying around Africa on Air Force One as an advisor to the President of the United States. I couldn't have imagined that when I was 20, and I met a 6-year-old kid named Michael. He was living with his family, he was living out of plastic bags in a homeless shelter in D.C. That I would become that little boy's big brother in the Big Brother and Big Sister program. And I couldn't have imagined that 30 years later, today, Michael and his wife are the proud parents of 6 of their own children. The first one just enrolled in college. And that there isn't a week that goes by that Michael doesn't tell me he is where he is because he had someone in his life who simply cared about what he was going through when he was a kid. I couldn't have imagined that when I got my first stipended internship in Washington, D.C. at the age of 24, paid $8,000 a year, and I had to live in a condemned building because I couldn't afford rent. I couldn't have imagined that 20 years later, I'd be traveling around northern Uganda with my favorite actor, Ryan Gosling, collecting the personal stories of former child soldiers and then traveling with him to the United Nations and Congress to demand action in support of those children. I couldn't have imagined when I was in my early 20s and no one would hire me because I had no experience, because no one would hire me. You know the drill. That less than 15 years later, I would be sitting elbow to elbow with President Nelson Mandela of South Africa, working with him on a peace process that successfully brought an end to a war in Central Africa. I couldn't have imagined when I was sitting in my moldy, cramped basement office in my first real job in Washington, D.C. in the late 1980s, that a decade and a half later, I would be accompanying Nobel Peace Prize winner Elie Wiesel, survivor of the Holocaust, and George Clooney, survivor of Batman 3, to the United Nations Security Council and talking about Africa. I couldn't have imagined that one sunny afternoon in 1991, I was walking out of a building in Washington, D.C., and I offered a ride to a guy who was at the meeting with me, who I didn't really know, but we were heading in the same direction. That I couldn't have imagined that today, 30 years later, that fellow is now one of my best friends. He's sitting right here in this audience, former Manchester Peace Studies professor Tim McElwee. Treasure the friendships you've made here, graduates, and hold them close to your heart for a lifetime. I couldn't have imagined that a decade ago, when the 2 top publishing companies in the United States both said the book Don Cheadle, the actor from the great film Hotel Rwanda, and almost as great Iron Man 2, this book Don Cheadle and I wanted to write about Africa, they said was unmarketable. I couldn't have imagined we would just go ahead and write it anyway, and it would climb all the way to number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. Copies available on Amazon.com. Thank you. I couldn't have imagined that when I was exactly your age, and I wasn't speaking to my father, that many, many years later, as we reconciled, and as he was losing his battle with cancer, I finally came to realize this giant of a man who I had rebelled against all my life had given me so many of the gifts and the tools that had made me successful in life. Not a day goes by that I don't ache for my father to still be here with me. Honor your father and mother, graduates, while you still have each other. I hope all of you see my point by now. I have definitely done enough name dropping to make it, for gosh sakes. Here is the point. Be an upstander for the things that you believe in. And while you're being an upstander, dream big, because those dreams could come true. When I started to believe in myself and my path, my dreams started becoming reality. It wasn't the other way around. You must believe in who you are and what you stand for as a human being. Because life is going to hit, and it's going to hit hard. There have been points in my own life where things genuinely looked bleak, even hopeless. Without a belief in who I am, what I stand for, and without my faith in God, I would not be standing here today. Redemption is always one chance away, right around the next corner, if you have the courage and the faith and the heart to keep trying and keep believing and keep pursuing your dreams. They don't always work. If you look up wacky in certain dictionaries, you're going to find a picture of me. And I can tell you, every time that I've taken a chance, ventured a risk, or chased a dream, I've gotten a little stronger, a little wiser, a little richer in spirit. And now, like the Scarecrow in the Wizard of Oz, I've got another honorary doctorate to prove it. But being an upstander is about more than just realizing your dreams. It's also fundamentally about making the world a better place. We cannot turn away from our role in the world and our role in our own neighborhood. When you leave this cocoon today, warm and fuzzy as it is, I urge you to join the organizations that address the issues that you care about and be part of the change in the world that you want to promote. In the darkest moments, be the one who lights the candle. And graduates, plant your oak tree in a place that matters. Over the last century, it has been people's movements that have changed the course of human history. The civil rights movement, the women's movement, the environmental movement, the labor movement, the peace movement, the list goes on. And here's what that means for you, today's graduates. If the world your future children will inherit will not be engulfed by environmental destruction, violent wars, preventable diseases, terrorist attacks, racial and religious discrimination, human rights abuses, and other scourges of our age, it will only be because you organized, you led, you believed in yourself, you didn't sleep through the revolution, you were an upstander, and you made darn sure that your precious and your hard-earned degree from Manchester University was a beacon that lit a path and lit a light for all those seeking a better world. So congratulations, class of 2017, you beacons. Stand up and go forth like the Spartans you are.